Welcome to Monarchist Minute. I'm your host, William Stout, here with Leon.
Hello?
How are you today, Leon?
I'm doing alright. What about you?
Eh, trying to stay warm in this chilly winter weather. Of course, you know about it too, being a fellow Midwesterner. It's no delight.
We just got our first, big snowstorm of the season. It's awful. I gotta go into work tomorrow morning to,
Ooh,
snowplow and everything.
how far's your commute?
5 minutes, but it's still
So at
not
least it's not bad, but still,
it's
be
not
safe
bad, but
out
still.
there.
I will, thank you.
Hmm. Uh, We are seeing some light flurries. Thankfully, the plows are managing to stay ahead of it. We haven't had a real heavy snow, but it's sticking. And this is the longest it has stuck in several years. Usually, we get a big snow. It sticks around for a couple days and then it melts. But this has been almost 2 weeks now where the snow is stuck to the ground. So,
Oh,
yeah, so this is pretty big. We might actually have a decent winter, and I'm looking forward to it because the bugs have been getting really, really bad without that freeze, you know?
I feel that.
Hmm.
I would have been more excited if I was like a little kid again, and it was no school day, get to play outside in the snow.
Oh,
But now I'm a grumpy old man about it.
I still treat myself when it comes to snow, primarily because of when I look at the 10-day forecast, I try and match up the temperatures, and if my policy has always been if I know for a fact the snow is not going to be on the ground for longer than 3 days, I just don't shovel.
Hmm. Not bad. Not a terrible idea. Like so with me now, I walk outside, and so if it snows like badly, we're talking more than an inch or whatever. I gotta like go out there and I gotta snow blow. I gotta lay down a bunch of salt. I gotta like help my coworkers do that, and it's just a bit of a inconvenience nowadays for
Oh
me.
yeah, I can imagine. What exactly do you do? I don't think we've ever discussed.
Groundskeeping.
Oh, lovely. So,
Yeah.
do you work for a private institution or are you like a public groundskeeper?
Oh, no, private company.
Uh, they pay you good?
Let's just say I make enough to go to college.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment.
That's all I can. That's all. That's really all I can say.
My employer pays for my college, so I can't say too much.
That's good.
Speaking of college, semester just started. I'm taking a course on Python now.
I'm sorry. Pythons?
Yes, the programming language. Have you ever heard of Python?
Oh no, no. I thought you were talking about the snake.
No, Python is it's kind of like JavaScript. Imagine you know what Java is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same principle.
Okay.
And we were talking about basically what a programming language is, and basically the idea behind a programming language is you have the way we as people speak and the way machines speak, and the idea the programming language is supposed to be somewhere in between that both the
Yes.
machine and the person can understand.
I remember this from my basic computer classes.
Yeah, so we got our lessons online. I got it downloaded on my computer, and it even came with a textbook. I haven't flipped through the textbook yet, and of course, as soon as I got the textbook, my professor tells me I won't actually need the textbook, but you know how it is.
It's happened to me so many times, man. Some hundreds of dollars wasted on books I never opened.
Well, at least I didn't have to pay for my textbooks. I actually had this thought earlier this week. I realized, man, I haven't had to pay for any of my textbooks. And nobody's asked me to reimburse the company for my textbooks, I could be selling my textbooks and make a racket off of it after not having to pay for them.
And
But
the FBI,
hoarding them.
IRS finally got you. The FBI is gonna raid your house now.
I hoard them. I just like having them for reference. I'm that kind of weird person where if I get a book, I just keep stacking them up.
Oh yeah, I've gotten books from family and everything, and it's like I just let them collect dust, make
Mm.
myself look interested.
Besides, a Python textbook might actually come in handy if I ever actually want to or need to program something.
Oh yeah.
Hmm. But while we're on the topic of computers and programming, you mentioned something about AI earlier, and I thought you might want to talk about that.
Oh, it's what was I talking about? What was I actually talking about? But the AI. It was I was complaining about how they're so like complex and everything. I'm just waiting for them to be able to learn how to fix themselves. They're doing myself. And I actually
Oh,
did have this conversation earlier with a coworker about it, in which I some people think the idea of being afraid of AI or suspicious of it is ridiculous. But this is, in my opinion, the final step of like the automatization of society. Once you make AI, once you have AI do all the jobs, or like 90% of the jobs, or what have you, it makes humans obsolete.
well, if I may, as someone who's in school for automation, I have to say, while there is a genuine concern we should have about automation replacing human labor, I
Labor.
don't I don't think AI is something we should be overly concerned about because the big thing with AI is that AI can learn, but it can't reason, meaning it is only as strong as the information you put into it. So, and they're running into this problem right now with picture generating AI
Oh
because
yeah. Okay.
picture generating AI are beginning to use AI generated images as sources to learn how to draw their images.
Oh my.
So, now, at first that sounds terrifying, but the problem is that AI sourced images already tend to have inaccuracies in them, especially when it comes to making humanoid characters because they tend to get small little details wrong with
Oh
the
yeah.
biology,
I've
such as
seen
extra
all of them.
fingers or I've you've
Yeah.
seen it before.
We all know. We've all seen them. We can't avoid them at this point.
Yeah. So the joke is that the AI is inbreeding because when it starts taking in those AI generated photos as sources for it to learn off of, what it's going to do is it's going to interpret those mistakes as correct. And so you'll eventually get a feedback loop where the AI eats itself because as it keeps using incorrectly AI generated content as the source of its information, it'll therefore make increasingly incorrect models, which will then feed back into other AI who are using those models as sources.
That is, I never heard of this before, but I mean, it makes sense. That's
So,
that's terrifying in a different aspect. It's just
so the thing about
horrific.
yeah, but it is at the same time a little comforting to know that we'll never have to worry about our AI overlords because the snake will inevitably eat itself.
Okay,
So
okay, but okay, well, really quick then. I mean, if just to move on into a different area of AI, have you heard about the increasing use of AI for for to be social and to like have a romantic life?
I have, and frankly, I think it's very sad just in that's where we are as a society with our socialization and people feeling isolated, but
No, it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy for sure.
yeah, I think it's more of a symptomatic issue than a issue with AI itself. Like the AI is an inanimate object. We can't blame the AI. We can only blame the sociological conditions that are making interacting with a machine rather than a human being.
Oh yeah, I'm not blaming AI necessarily in this situation, but I believe it's a start. It's a very worrisome trend, and it could potentially only grow from here. I mean, I remember. I'm not sure if you guys had talked about it before. It's been a few weeks since I last checked in on the podcast. But you've heard of like the North Korean soldiers in Ukraine, fighting for Russia, and how they've become like addicted to like pornography and League of Legends in just weeks because
I
they've never
I
experienced it before.
I did hear about that, and I honestly thought it was hilarious. Like exposure to the outside world in less than like 3 days, and they've already defaulted into degeneracy.
Oh, I mean, it's funny, but I mean, funny for sure. But think about the greater scheme of it. I mean, they were exposed to the unknown, which would be those things on the internet because they had never known about it before, and they immediately got addicted and everything. I mean, think about like it's just switch out like the variables. Switch out North Korean soldiers with like just humanity, and then like League of Legends and pornography with just like an AI romantic relationship.
I feel like, however, we need to keep some nuance on that, though.
Okay.
Compare it to, say, Native Americans, for example. When Native Americans were first introduced to Western and European diets, it caused a huge issue with um health and nutrition, and that's why Native Americans to this day have a higher rate of diabetes because their bodies were not evolved and adapted for such a heavily agriculture based diet. Many of them were. So I
Okay.
know this is a strange example, but what I'm trying to say by explaining this is that the North Koreans, we can't use the North Koreans as a standard for the whole of our society because while there is such a thing as pornography addiction, AI addiction, and all of these issues going on online, the North Koreans also exist in a complete and total vacuum where these things weren't available to them, whereas we exist in a world where we are constantly surrounded by them. So there's not as much novelty to it. I guess you could say we have more of a resistance to it just
I see
because
what
we're
you
so
mean. We have
exposed to it.
familiarity with it. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously we've had decades of like high end technology, and then people often you've have you heard of the movie I, Robot with Will Smith or the video game Detroit Become Human? I mean, people
I
we
want to
we
play Detroit Become Human. I have seen iRobot though.
mm. I mean, obviously, you don't have to be as dystopian as iRobot, but we've been exposed to this idea, this concept of what AI is, what it could be, what it could not be, and so on and so forth. So I see what you mean by that.
The thing about making a super intelligent machine and the problem with it is that even if you can make a computer that has the same amount of computing power as a human brain, that does not mean it will function like a human brain because our wiring is different. The way
Of
the
course, of
brain
course.
works is different than the way a computer works. And that primarily has to do with the fact that our brain is biochemical and is inherently an analog device that well, I refer to it as a device just for the sake of comparison, that works in gradual um forms and okay, so the difference between analog and digital. Digital is what is called discrete value. It's either yes or no, a 1 or a 0. That's the whole point of binary code. Yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Whereas the human brain is analog. Analog works with real values, and so it can be a variation. So the issue with the way humans think compared to where the way a computer thinks is that a computer can only think linearly. It can only think in terms of cause and effect, A plus B equals C. Whereas humans, we can think in circular ways, we can think of linear ways, we can think of all sort of different ways. Our brains are more flexible and pliable than a machine's, and that has more to do with why humans are the way we are than how powerful our brains are, but how we can use our brains.
Oh, I totally understand. I mean, it's simple. It's a very simple thing. Um, essentially what you're adding there is that like a machine of AI can explain like is something X or Y, but us as humans, we can ask and we can try and understand why is X, why is
Right.
X and Y what it
Exactly.
is.
So the big thing in AI will always have trouble understanding is intangible concepts. Which is funny when you think about it because an AI is inherently an intangible thing. It's a computer program. You can't hold it. But because it is intangible, it is so dependent on physical hardware, data input, and everything, and gaining its information in order to make decisions from outside sources that it can only focus and therefore derive anything from something tangible. It can't think outside the box. A machine can think, it can learn, but a machine can't contemplate, it can't reason, it can't think beyond a task, it can't think about its own existence.
Okay, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. That, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I always thirst for knowledge, whatever it might be. And thinking about it like this, I mean, I guess for me personally, it puts my mind at ease for the night at least.
Although, I do think it will be interesting to see how AIs continue to develop in the future, but one thing is for certain, all these people who are overly dependent on it are very, very stupid.
You should never. Yeah, I agree. I mean, with that, it's pathetic, is what it is.
I do think
Well,
AI has some good uses though. Like I can see it being useful for very menial tasks. Like I can see an AI maybe replacing some tasks like keeping a card catalog in a library or inventory would be a wonderful task to replace with
oh,
AI. Just
you're
like
right.
doing spreadsheets and keeping track of where things are. But you're never going to use AI to replace doctors or skilled labor or anything like that. You can't because those tasks require what's the word I'm looking for? Not nuance, but variation. Uncontrolled variables, individual cases that aren't uniform and are therefore different every single time. And since they're different every single time, there's no predictability for an AI to build a learned pattern from. It has to reason, and the AI can't, as I just said, it can't reason. It can think, but it can't reason.
I get that. I mean, like he suggested. I mean, I can see it being used more mainstreamed as for for McDonald's or for a library, but you would never employ an AI as a therapist.
Right. Well, even McDonald's, I don't know about it. I actually had this conversation with a friend of mine who I work with. She went to school for culinary arts, and she said that actually the service industry is going to be one of the safest industries when AI comes, simply because of the fact that machines, and it's just the way she explained it was this: food is an art form. There's something uniquely human to the art of cooking. And so if you try and cook with a machine or have a machine cook, it loses that, I guess you could say, special touch. So while it's true we could theoretically use an AI with cheap, low quality food like fast food, the fact of the matter is, in most cases, an AI or a machine will never be able to successfully cook because it will never be able to have that chef's touch.
Oh yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I agree with your friend. I mean, an AI would never be able to be on like Gordon Ramsay level kind of culinary arts. But
Oh yeah.
most definitely, and speaking as a former McDonald's employee from forever ago, I mean, a lot of that business on the day to day is very automated. Like for example, the grilling the meats and the everything. I mean, it's the on timers, the on like automatic machines. All you have to do as the employee it's put like the meat on the grill or whatever, and then essentially the grill itself will take over.
Wait, that's interesting. I've never worked food service, so I wouldn't know that.
Yeah, yeah, and same thing with like a lot of the fryers. I mean, they have timers and everything. Again, people are there to like
Right.
refill like refill the baskets and take them out or whatever. But the fact that is that have to count it yourself, which I guess that makes sense.
Right. I think the biggest hurdle we're gonna have to worry about when it comes to machines and AI in the food service industry is hygiene. Because the big thing about you would think that a machine would maybe be cleaner, but you gotta think about it. If people aren't taking a look at these machines and are just letting them go because, they're automated and they think they don't need human interference, those things are gonna get very dirty very fast.
Oh, I mean, I actually now that you mentioned it, I mean, I didn't consciously like think about it actively or anything, but thinking back now to my experience at McDonald's, I agree with you. I mean, even with human neglect, I mean that place got dirty as hell.
So
I mean,
yeah, I
I mean,
would
and go on.
I would say I would definitely be very worried about food poisoning in an AI kitchen just because of management completely neglecting to clean any of the machinery at all, just because they're not thinking about it.
I mean, unless you had like a little Roomba going around, at least like vacuuming all the stuff that falls on the floor, and then I don't know, get like a drone with like a some lemon pledge and just spray around and everything.
The Band-Aid solution of cleaning, lemon pledge.
Yes. Oh, with culprit, of course it's gonna be the cheapest way possible.
So, wait, since you worked at McDonald's, I have to ask, are the
Okay.
ice machines really as dirty as everyone says they are?
The ice machines?
Yes, because I remember hearing somewhere that the ice machines on average are actually dirtier than the bathrooms.
Okay, I can attest to this. In my experience, I had never seen anyone clean an ice machine from the inside.
Noted.
That I can I'll attest to that. That is my own personal perspective. I do not speak for McDonald's Incorporated.
Come to think of it, I don't even know how you take apart an ice machine to clean it.
I mean, okay, I'll say this too is that it's not just like McDonald's and Burger King. A lot of like your local places too do not ready clean them. A lot of local balls and stuff places they don't clean them that much
Mm.
because no one ever thinks about it. No one ever thinks they should, you have to clean like where you put the water in.
Well, I feel like the thought process is that, the reason you put something in a fridge or a freezer is so it doesn't spoil, and since the ice machine makes ice and it's always cold because it makes ice, that therefore it should stay clean.
No, that's the problem. That's the big problem that you run into is that people just assume it stays clean.
It doesn't. It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't. People, please, any restaurant workers, please clean the ice machines.
And if you don't believe us, get a fridge, leave it unplugged for like 24 hours, open it, smell it inside, and tell us what you think.
And if you want to see the horrific examples, go watch Bar Rescue with John Taffer. There are a few episodes where he'll
Oh,
rip into the ice machine and show the black mold growing on the inside.
that show terrifies me.
I don't want I'm not addicted. I'm not obsessed, but I do like to put it on for background noise or when I'm eating.
I don't know if I have a specific show I put on for background noise. It just depends on what mood I'm in. Usually, when I need shows for background noise, I'll just put on something I've already watched that I enjoy just because I can do another task while I'm watching it and not have to worry about paying attention because I already know what happens.
Of course, I get it. For me, my three main shows for just background noise is Kitchen Nightmares, Bar Rescue, and Law and Order.
Law and Order would be good for background noise because it's not too loud. Oh, I know a show I like for background noise. What's it called? Pole veterinary. The amazing Dr. Pole. It's on Disney Plus. It's through National Geographic, and it's about a vet up in the middle of the mitten in Michigan.
Okay.
It's a fun little show to watch.
Oh, never
Something
heard of
everyone
it
else.
before.
He's in your neck of the well, not exactly your neck of the woods, but he's in your
Ah,
state, so
closer to me than he is closer to you.
definitely.
Speaking of that, now that you got me thinking, there was this one show that I used to really like, just for background noise, or just, if I was in like in the mood, and the mood would be very somber, very lonesome, honestly, I would say. Um, what's it called? It took place in like the Upper Peninsula, in like around the city of Marquette. Um, let me look it up for you. It was Joe Per was it Joe Pariah? Is that how you pronounce it?
Mm.
I can't think of it. I can't think of it to save my life. But it took place in like the Upper Peninsula, and it was like this very kind of lonely kind of I don't want to say lonely guy, but he definitely was like by himself in a way, and he would I don't know. It's an experience. It's a trip. I'll look for it. I just need a minute.
A lot of
But I
times,
highly recommend it. And it was usually on Adult Swim. Not all the time, but when it was, I would put it on.
speaking of Adult Swim, a lot of times when I need background noise, what I do is I put on all the cartoons I used to watch when I was a kid.
Oh,
Just so I can enjoy listening to nostalgia while I'm doing another task.
like American Dad and Family Guy.
Oh, there's been several nights where I've stayed up till 2 in the morning playing EU4 while Clone Wars is playing in the background.
Ah. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Joel Perro talks with you. There we go. On Adult Swim. I highly recommend it for anyone out there who's just in a mood. I know that's vague on the mood, but I highly recommend it.
So
Unfortunately,
that,
it was canceled,
oh, that's sad.
but that's like 4 seasons or something.
So that's Leon's comfort show.
It is. It strangely is.
I'm not gonna
But
lie, call me a weeb, but my comfort show is 110% Come We Can't Communicate. I'm not gonna lie. It just makes me feel good.
oh, you don't say.
It just,
For those of you on YouTube, the joke is that he's obsessed with this show.
I am obsessed with the show. I'm not gonna lie. The show is incredibly relatable and it makes me very, very happy, and I'm not gonna be ashamed of it.
No, you shouldn't be. I mean, it's nothing as degenerate as some. Just a
Yeah,
few names and images pop into mind. My have you one of the animes I'll watch, occasionally as for comfort is like Lupin the Third. Have you heard of that one?
I think I have. Isn't that the one about the kid who's mute, can't speak, and he's the king?
No, 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 no. Despite the name, as monarchical as the name might sound, it's actually about a thief and his
Really?
gain of friends. One of them's like a gunslinger, one of them's a samurai, and the one of them's a femme fatale. And it's undergone different phases because it's been on since, like the 60s or the 70s. And it's definitely much more I don't want to say campy, but a lot cleaner than it was originally. I mean, there's the same criticism with like the Hitman games. It used to be all like um gory and like dirty and everything, and now it's been kind of like whitewashed in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But I like it. I mean, it's I like it. I can't sell it, you guys. I'm so sorry, but just look it up.
I'll be honest, some of the crude humor that's common in anime doesn't really bother me because I grew up in that environment where we weren't what's the word I'm looking for? Prudish. I didn't grow up in a very prudish household, so All the
I
crude,
unfortunately did.
oh, so all the crude and lewd humor, that just suits me. I'm used to it, so the fan service doesn't bother me.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's not much fan service in that show. Well, at least not nowadays. Again, like I said, it's been pretty washed to be almost kid friendly. Not really kid friendly, but a lot more like the family could watch it if the family decided to.
You want to know an anime I absolutely could not stand, even though it was supposedly one of the big, famous, and super popular ones when anime first got big back in the 2010s?
What?
Death Note. I could never get into Death Note.
I won't lie with you. I couldn't get I I've watched some of it. I just it didn't really catch my attention that much.
The
Maybe
prom-
nowadays it would compared to like teenage me, but
the premise, I thought the premise was interesting, but after a while, I was just like, this dude can only kill so many people with a notebook before it gets boring.
so true. That's so
And
true,
it's just
Kane.
like there was nothing really to push the plot forward other than dude killed this guy with notebook, guys getting chased by super detective,
I
dude's
didn't
just killing
like
more people with notebook, game of cat and mouse. There's nothing interesting or novel about it
didn't
after
he
a
like I
while.
feel like the again I never finished it or anything, but I feel like the ending was so obvious is that it's like he got his just results. Doesn't he die at the end?
Yeah, he dies.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you see that coming from so far away. This man's essentially been given the power of God, and he's abused it like the devil. So of course he's gonna die because he's a man. You know
Right.
what?
And he dies alone because he basically ends up killing everyone he cares about in order to hide his identity and his god complex. But
hmm
I couldn't even get that far. I got 10 episodes and it's like, this is so boring.
one anime all of us monarchists should love,
What?
as old as it is, Code Geass. And I know if Zionic was there, he'd be fucking livid. Ah, I'm sorry. I forget I'm not supposed to swear on this.
Oh, don't worry. I don't care.
Hmm.
If you just slip up a few times, yeah. But if it's constantly, I'll give you
No,
an
I get
issue.
it. I
Yeah.
get it. I appreciate it. But Code Geass, I mean, I feel like these shows we'll talk about are so old. People should know it. Oh, but
Oh,
essentially, you know
actually,
that one, right?
yeah. I know it. It's on my watch list. And believe it or not, Zayon
What?
approves. Zayonic approves. If it's
No,
a
I know.
male anime,
I
he
know.
approves.
I know he approves. I'm saying like the fact that we're talking about it without him.
Hey, that's his fault. He refuses to come up and let his voice be heard.
Oh, just
He's,
show up to the podcast.
he's a man who enjoys his privacy.
Yeah,
And
fair
that
enough.
means that he doesn't participate in any of the programs as much as I would love to drag him up here kicking and screaming just to talk about anime.
That's the Monarchist Minute anime hour.
That should actually just be a fun episode we do one of these weeks. One of these weeks where we just do a BS episode.
Have
That
you
should
guys never done that before?
110% just be the episode.
Have you guys never done like an anime episode before?
I don't think so, just for the simple fact that normally that would get vetoed.
I guess. I don't know. There's been so many episodes. Like, obviously I've not even attempted to try and catch up with all of them.
I don't, I'll be honest, I don't listen to the podcast, not because I don't think that we make a poor product, but just because I hate the sound of my voice recorded.
No, I get that. I get that 100%. I won't watch this episode back because I hate my own voice.
Yeah, when I was younger, my voice used to sound really gravelly when it was recorded. The joke was it used to sound like I smoked a pack a day. And so I always hated the sound of my voice when it was recorded, and I still don't like it to this day. It's better now, I just still don't like it.
I get that. That's a funny way to describe it though. A pack a day. That's wild.
Yeah, like it had that real, like, rusty, gravelly, like, you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. 100%.
Like my
What ab-
voice was constantly scratchy.
what about for at least for like a topic for that the Monarchist Minute anime hour that might or may not happen at some point. You should like try and find an anime that is like pro monarchist or like anti monarchist.
But
Because I definitely think
there's actually
yeah.
quite a bit of pro-monarchist anime.
Oh yeah.
Zayotic and I talk about this quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting that there's a lot more in anime than there is in like Western media, or at least Anglo-American media.
Well, that probably has to do with Japanese culture and its relation to the emperor, since Japan is very traditional and closely knit with their monarchy. They therefore make content that displays royalty in a much more positive light.
But it's always like when it's always with like royalty and anime and all that. It's always a very Western oriented. Like they make no attempt to any ever like reference or imitate the Japanese monarchy. It's always like it's based off the British or what have you.
Depends on the anime. If you get into some of the more historical dramas, they actually end up emulating like Chinese imperial court, the shogunates, and everything.
Okay,
It's so
okay,
it depends on the anime. If you go into the
okay,
historical dramas, you will see more Asian style monarchies.
okay.
Like there's something I'm watching right now. It's called The Apothecary Diaries, and it's an anime
Oh, I've
about
heard about this. I've heard about this. It
and
happens
so
in
it
like
goes
Imperial China.
yeah, and it goes into extremely like detailed and accurate depictions of life in palace culture during Ming Dynasty China,
Okay,
down to the etiquette when dealing with officials and everything and all that.
interesting. I
It's actually really good. I would suggest it to you.
okay. I I wish there was more exploration into like quote unquote Eastern monarchies and when I mean by that, of course, I mean like I'm including the Japanese and the Chinese, but I'm also including like India, Persia, even the Byzantines. So it's just like that whole, it's a more highly complex, like kind of like a quote injuries and all that.
I think I don't know. I could see India maybe perhaps making more content in the future having to do with the Rajas and the Sultanates of old. But I feel like that might be a lot to unpack, especially considering many of the Rajas were collaborators with the British colonial government and therefore might be a
Oh
tough
yeah, or like
subject.
written off in modern like Indian nationalist history as traitors.
Right,
I
exactly.
get that, but just like more, but I don't know. Like, I tell this to all my friends. It's like India has such a fascinating and rich history that I won't even touch it because this is I can't. There's nowhere to begin. There's nowhere to begin to get to an end point because you just
Well,
get lost and
the
flooded.
problem is that we can't treat, before a certain period, we can't treat India as one whole entity.
That's true. That's true too.
The
India is
fact
like
of the,
its own world
yeah, the fact of the matter is, the idea of a unified India only exists, ironically, because of British
because of the
colonialism.
British. Yeah.
And somewhere out there, there's a Hindu nationalist watching this that just has an aneurysm.
Listen, I mean, I would apologize if I was wrong, but I'm not.
We're not wrong.
We're not wrong. If
You
if
make,
it wasn't for the British, India, as of today, would not exist.
and let's make them even madder. The only other people to come as close as the British to unifying India were the Mughals, who were all Muslims.
Yes, that is also very true. So we've now alienated our entire Indian viewer base. Congratulations.
Today is a good day. Cheers.
Today is a good day, he says.
Hey, if you're not making someone upset, you failed as a commentator. Controversy equals ratings.
True, true. As much as I hate it, you're right. I I I don't know, with that logic and stuff now, and seeing how it's playing out nowadays, it's like I've completely given up on even trying to be interested in like commentaries. The big ones and on like the right, for example. Um,
It really is low hanging fruit anymore.
it is. It's just so oversaturated now, and I've totally lost interest because it's like it's not now they've become a hive mind in themselves now.
Hmm.
That's the biggest irony.
It's amazing, and they're like that even with their opponents. It's amazing how such a community can have such a feedback to each other that they don't even need to go outside their community to get new content and create new controversy and conflict and conversation because they can just make stuff up amongst themselves.
Oh yeah. Hey, I mean, I'm not sure if you or the viewers have heard yet, but just like the a backlash now against like Elon Musk, and now it's kind of like affecting Trump too. Just like the how much like their own support base has kind of like been pissed off by them.
Hmm.
I mean, obviously they're not gonna like completely drop them and switch sides again. But it's like just to see like the how fast a pin can drop.
Well, we're going well into 45 minutes.
Oh shoot.
Yeah, we definitely had some good conversation. Do you have any final thoughts before we close up?
Uh, question everything. Don't just be told what to do by someone.
Very good
Know
advice.
something.
I consider that excellent advice. Without further ado, we shall close out in prayer. Please bow your head and join me. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us of our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Heavenly Father, we dedicate this prayer to all those suffering from the fires out west in California. Protect them and keep them safe from the blaze, and help them when it is time to rebuild. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you for joining us on Monarchist Minute. We hope to see you next time, same place. If you're following us on YouTube, like, comment, and subscribe. If you're listening to this on any other platform, hit follow or hit subscribe or whatever the button is to make sure you're getting updates on whenever we're releasing podcasts. And if you want to help out, join the cause, or communicate with us more directly, send us an email, get a hold of us on social media, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. Until next time, may God bless you and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you and good night.